All right. So let's talk about inflecting in Pashto. If you read the previous section, Intro to Inflection, which we've looked at before, you're going to remember the reasons why you inflect in Pashto. First, if something's plural, so like Sarai is one man, but then if you say Sari, you inflect it or you change it to Sari, then it becomes plural. Also, if it's in a sandwich, so let's look at this, the Sari num. So this is a sandwich. So this is one man, but because it's in the sandwich, it's inflected. Now, in the future, we'll be talking about past transitive verbs, which we have not talked about yet, and that's another reason to inflect. So before we talk about past transitive verbs, we need to review inflection and some of the forms for how things inflect. So if you click on inflection patterns, and you can find the 6 basic patterns for inflecting, which, yes, it's a lot. Okay, so don't feel like you have to memorize them all now. But let's get started just with a quick overview of these. And my hope is by the end of this video, you'd understand these inflection patterns so that, especially as you start using past transitive verbs, and let's say you try to say something and then someone corrects you, you can have at least a basic understanding for, okay, I inflected that wrong, and what they're telling you is the new inflection. And it's not just this like, wow, they said I'm wrong and I have no idea why I'm wrong. Okay. So the first is the basic inflection pattern. So you can see for the masculine, between the plain and the first inflection, it's actually the same. Okay. And then for the second inflection, it's add an O. And then for the feminine, you have agata, agate, and then agato. Okay, so that A, E, O pattern for the feminine. Okay, so that's the basic. And you can click here if you want to see some more examples of other words that follow that pattern. So you can see for all of them, though, they follow that same pattern on the end. Okay. Then the second is we have words ending in an unstressed I. Okay, or EY. So you can, and the reason why we're contrasting unstressed with stressed is because the next, or why he's mentioning it's unstressed, because in the next there'll be EY with stress. Okay, so the good news is that the masculine is pretty easy. You know Sarai, Sari, Sario. So this is Stare, Stari, and Stario. Okay, and again, remember there's multiple versions, so often this gets shortened to Storo. Okay, and then the feminine, we have, it's actually easier. We just have the 2 A endings, stare, stare, and staro. Okay, and again, you can look and see all sorts of other examples that follow that same ending. Now let's talk about when the stress is on the end of the word. Okay, so notice, like, the stress here is waruke, so ru, right? It's in the middle of the word. But here, the stress on the end of the word, lumrei, lumrei, lumrei. Okay, so actually for the masculine, the pattern's the same, lumrei, lumri, lumrio. Okay, that's the same, or lumro. That's the exact same as the unstressed, so it doesn't matter for the masculine. But for the feminine, the pattern's going to be slightly different. Okay, and this is actually really hard for us to hear, because instead of using the e, we're going to use the e. Okay, lumrei, 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 right? And those vowels are really hard for us to hear anyways, but there is a slight difference there. Okay, so again, right now, just be aware of the difference. So if someone corrects you, you can kind of be, okay, it's an inflection thing. And I know there's patterns for this, so I'm going to go review those patterns, or I'm going to go look up this word and try to remember what pattern it is. Okay, then the last 2 I'll go over quickly because they're kind of irregular ones. So you have like Pashtun, and then what's really weird, or Pachtun, is then you add kind of, they call it lengthening the vowel. So it's, instead of Pashtun, it's Pachta, and then you add a at the end, Pachtana. Okay, and then for the second version, it's Pachtano. Okay, so just kind of a really weird. But notice that all these other ones follow that same pattern. So Run, and then Aranda, and then Arando. Okay, so they're all following that, even though it's this kind of weird vowel lengthening going on. Okay, So then in the feminine, we have A, E, and O. So notice that's actually really similar to some of the other patterns we've seen, the A, E, O pattern. Okay, and then number 5 is shorter words that squish. So these are also really irregular in a sense. You have aghal, and he calls it squishing because then you see they cut out this U, and the L just, it squishes together, and then you add an ending. So aghla or aghlo, okay? And feminine similar, aghla, aghle, aghlo. I'm sorry, similar to how it's been in other feminine endings, a, e, o. Okay. Okay, and then here's something a little bit tricky: is inanimate feminine nouns ending in e. Okay, so inanimate means it's like an abstract. It's not an. Most of the time, it's an abstract idea. So like freedom, dukandari, happiness, optimism. So these are not like concrete things. Yeah, I don't even know if inanimate's the right word. Actually, it's more like abstract versus concrete. Because inanimate actually does mean something linguistically different. Anyways, so sorry, I'll need to check that. But anyways, think about, yeah, you can just see brotherhood, census, I guess census is kind of that's interesting, because that's kind of the actual, I don't know, misfortune, that's abstract. Okay, kili, interesting. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe inanimate. Inanimate means it's like not human. I need to think about this. Okay, sorry. Carpentry. But you see a lot of these are definitely abstract things. That's how I've thought about it in the past. So I need to think about this a little bit more. For example, tarkani, tarkane, and then tarkanio. So notice, only feminine. We're only talking about feminine here. And they have a special way that they inflect. Okay? One other note is not all words inflect. And the key exception is if an adjective ends in an A, in the masculine form, you can inflect it. So, chafa. So, zachafayim. So, if I'm a guy, I still say that, zachafayim. If I'm a girl, I say zachafayim. Okay? So, you don't inflect it. And then he has some other exceptions here too. You can read this if you really want to, but if you're already like, wow, that's way too much information, don't worry about the exceptions, and you'll just pick those up later. Okay? Okay, so here's the last thing that I recommend that you do is go ahead and identify the inflection patterns, okay? And start with level 1 and then move to level 2, and again, just practice it first. So, merb, okay? And then it's going to ask you what type of pattern it is. So basic is it ends in a consonant or for masculine, sorry, it ends in a consonant or it ends in a So this is a basic one. Oh, it's not a basic one. Oh, wait, oh, it's the squish. Sorry, I had that wrong. Because it's murd. And one thing you can do, actually, if you want to, because one thing is he blurs out the thing so you can't really check it. But one thing you could do if you wanted to is just pull up your dictionary beside, look this up, and then see the inflections, right? Jose, Hosi, Hosio. So I'm going to say, okay, this is, oh, actually he tells you here, inflection pattern number 3. Well, I guess that's somewhat helpful. So this is just to practice getting used to this, okay? Now, if you find that this is really challenging for you, then I would just say stop and just look at, focus on understanding the ones that you can understand, so especially this basic one, and let's say number 2 and 3. Make it a goal to kind of get those down, and then later you can work on some of the others, okay? But if you have just a basic understanding of, okay, I know in Pashto these words do these things, and there's set patterns to them, then that will help you as you're actually interacting with words, and you see them changing, and you know, okay, there's a reason for them changing, and I can go back and look at the reasons, or I can start to understand the reasons. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.